consider, is it worth doing that for the outcome that I want? But I've been in organisations where it'd be really critical, because of a focus on delivering a certain type of ROI, that we gather certain types of data. And that might be then putting in mechanisms for measurement that aren't there already. We also need to really consider our evaluation timing. What do we think we might mean by this? Any thoughts?
You might take a certain period of time for people to develop the necessary skills after learning behavioural techniques. So you can evaluate behavioural change a week after, for example, a training course.
Yes.
It's been a long period of time or something like that.
Yes. I think that's spot on. There's two aspects of it. The one you've described there is one of the really important elements, which is let's ensure that our evaluation timings match what would be normally expected to see in terms of that learning transfer. There's no point in looking for behavioural 3 level 3 2 weeks after the event. You'll be looking at 6 months in terms of evaluation timing. Likewise, though, you might want to consider the actual political and social arena and timelines in the business at that point in time for doing that piece of measurement. If we are looking at, the time where we wouldn't have started just putting in return on investment measures is the week before major government initiative or major change, or as we had last week in terms of the delivery of the spending cuts. There's no point in doing that the day before because things could change. So you really want what I call a period of normality. A period of normality in this current climate is quite difficult. What's normal? But getting a period of reasonable stability where there's just normal activity happening. If you're an organisation where you've got seasonal cycles, for example, don't choose the month where you're going to have low performance anyway, or everybody off, or whatever is appropriate. And that sounds obvious stuff, but it's about getting a period of time where you choose to do your initial evaluation. What are we evaluating it for? So evaluation purposes, key, and also the levels. So I might be looking at transfer of skills around customer behaviour, let's just say, and I'll have a level of behaviour that I'll be looking to see at first frontline level, but I'd also be wanting a level of behavioural shift around strategy and focus around customer at my senior level. So what am I measuring? Is it frontline performance? Is it senior performance? Is it winning of hearts and minds around the concepts of what I'm doing, or is it that practical delivery of the skills there? And that might help us determine, again, what type of evaluation instruments we're going to be using for that. This is what Ian was saying earlier about isolating the effects of training. The next thing we need to think about is what else is going on in our organisations or in the wider political and social arena that could impact that, or could enable somebody who's your cynic in your organisation to say, do you know, it would have happened anyway. And that's the piece where we might need to consider what else is going on. And we might then decide in consultation just to only apportion 20% of that impact, that positive impact, turn to the training course, and the rest is down to other things. It could be change of policy. Quite often, particularly when you're doing your job really well in your internal consulting, your analysis helps to highlight process changes that need to be made. So it could affect that the impact on that end customer experience or the internal piece could have come through that process change as well. And that's really key to have a look at that.
It's going to happen a lot now in the public sector, isn't it?
Absolutely.
I think I'm probably the only person from further education here, and the cuts that were announced last week are going to hit us for 6.
Yes, exactly.
And I've already seen a change in a week with our managers who were possibly fairly complacent FE managers suddenly saying, oh my God, I've got to do something different now.
Absolutely.
And that is it's interesting to see how that will actually have a real impact.
Exactly. Yeah, so it could be that they're going to be forced into a process change simply because of what they're having to deal with or what they're having to manage within, which is 20% less, if not more, than where it was before.
The thing is, do you put an intervention in to push that a bit further, or do you allow circumstances just to allow it to happen naturally? Why spend the money if the lack of funding is going to force them to behave in a certain way?
It's an interesting one because sometimes just putting the process in itself, an example about this is the work we're doing in the housing sector, where we would be applying lean principles and looking at lean thinking in terms of mapping the customer journey. So you would get a certain return by simply doing that anyway, if that makes sense. However, what you tend to find is unless it's been part and parcel of the way managers have operated, then they're quite clumsy in the application of those new skills processes, and they still need that development support to actually get them to be effective in delivery of it. So it's about both quite often, but it's about saying, you know, some of this could be down to other things, and let's identify that. What you're then looking at doing is taking your data and converting your data to monetary value. We'll expand on that shortly. I'm now saying, but it needs me to understand what that data means in my business. So for example, if we're talking simply about something like attritional turnover, great if my HR department have got costs clearly associated with what it costs the business to induct somebody. What does it cost the business to recruit somebody new to replace at every level, managerial level? How much does it cost when I lose a key customer? Some of that data might be there, others you might want you to work hard with your mathematical skills to do some calculations around. So this is where I'm saying if I've got some maths experts later, it'd be fabulous. But this is about turning that data into a monetary value. Quite a lot of work's being done at the moment in terms of absence. We've got some great figures that sit behind the scenes that shows in different sectors how much it actually costs for one person to be absent in the business. Now, you might say, well, one KPI is around absence management. I want to raise morale and avoid presenteeism, and that means that that's going to have a monetary value. Take 10% improvement in that area, what does that actually mean? What we've also got to do, if we're going to look at the ROI specifically, is we need to tabulate the programme costs, and we'll do this very practically this afternoon. So this means getting every single cost related to delivering this out on the table, whether that's external training costs, whether that's your internal costs, resources, your faculty. We'll have a look at some of the things that are likely to be in there. And also just go over the top. If you think we should include it, include it. I'd much rather that we have everything included in calculating your ROI, down to the pens and pencils that you're going to produce on the training day and so on, than not included. The bigger transparency that you've got within that, the better. From those two things, tabulating the programme cost, converting the data to monetary value, you can actually calculate the ROI. So if you have spent, just for argument's sake, £100,000 on a programme and you've got £100,000 back, then you've got 100% return on investment. But you also need to decide the time length against which that's going to be. That could be 6, 12 months, 18 months, and so on. Now, it'll be horses for courses. If you've got a 2-year management programme, you may not be measuring the ROI on that for a 36 months period of time. If you've got a short, sharp piece of work around key skills, you might want to be measuring that fairly soon.